always happens for you first, Ron.
We're live.
We're
Surprise,
live.
surprise. Oh, yeah. The internet pedal started from the South Bay. It's
And
working
it's
its way,
pedaling, pedaling, pedaling,
going through the valley.
pedaling, and boom,
Yeah. You got to see it to
we're
believe it.
live.
You can't take my word for it. I wouldn't want you to. What's up,
No.
everybody?
How's everybody doing? Today is, believe it or not, December 12th.
Oh,
December
God.
12th already,
I know,
2022.
right?
It's a Monday. We're getting closer to the holiday season here. I'm Tina-Desiree Berg, and I have Ron with me. We're going to have a fun-filled day today. At the top of the hour, we do have a very special guest that we're going to introduce. He is the executive director of Our Revolution, Joseph Geevarghese, and he has been a longtime labor activist for folks that don't know that. So he's had a whole labor rights activism life outside of Our Revolution. So let's go ahead and bring Joseph on.
Hey, Tina.
Welcome,
Hey,
Joseph.
Ron.
So glad we
Hey,
could
how are
have
you?
you today. We have lots to talk about, lots going
Thank
on.
you.
There's some wins, some losses, some frustrations. But right off the top, I want to talk to you about the railroad strike. Obviously Biden stepped in and he thwarted the strikers from going on strike, kind of forced that deal. One of the main selling points, or one of the bad points, I should say, is the sick days are not part of the deal. And Bernie Sanders is now asking for Biden to sign an executive order, more or less, to sign that into law, that they get there at minimum 6 days, and seven's not enough. They should have more. I do want to ask you, though, because you've dealt with Biden in the past. When Obama was president and you were head of a labor movement, you had him as your point person, as VP. And I think back then you learned you had to make him do things, right? Obama was supposed to be this progressive guy that was pro-labor, and he still wasn't, doing the things necessary to bring the labor rights forward. So making him do it, right? Activism from the outside. So now we're going to be going toe to toe with him to try to see if he'll sign this executive order. What do you think the outcome is going to be?
Look, I think the most significant takeaway from this strike is there's still a fundamental question about which side is the Democratic Party on. Is it on the side of workers and organized labor, or is it on the side of big corporations? And time again, we've seen Democratic administrations pick the wrong side. And this is just another example. And in some ways, I would argue that this could have been a Patco in reverse moment for Joe Biden. We had one of the key moments in labor history that really signaled, I think, the beginning of the demise of the American labor movement in this era was when Reagan said, I am not going to stand on the side of striking air traffic controllers. I'm going to
Yeah.
use my authority as president to bust the union. And in some ways, the president, while he didn't bust the union, he did use his power to say, you know what, I'm not going to make you, the workers, more powerful at the
Right.
bargaining table.
Right.
And the truth is, the workers had power, right? I mean, they could paralyze the entire economy if they wanted to. And that's something that I think is significant, is that workers were positioned. They had muscle, but the president said, no, I'm not with you.
Yeah.
And I think that has, in a larger context, if in the larger political context, if we're going to rebuild progressive politics in this country, I think it's imperative for us to have a strong labor movement. And most importantly, it's important to have a government that stands on the side of workers, because that's what we elect people like Joe Biden to do. And in this case, it was really disappointing. Do we support Bernie, others pushing on the executive action, in terms of getting sick days? Of course. But more generally, I think there should be some soul searching on the part of unions, on the part of progressives, about what we've got to do to make Democratic politicians embrace labor much more than just rhetorically.
Right. No, that's exactly right. They could have leaned on the employers to force them to provide the sick days instead of leaning on the workers to say you can't strike because you're going to shut down the economy. Let's be clear, that was a choice that they made. They do have the power to lean on the other side, but you're right. They didn't. Reagan didn't do it. Biden didn't do it, and both of these were, broad transportation strikes that did threaten the well-being of the economy. But on the same token, I don't see that strike would go longer than a couple of days because the money these large companies would lose would be substantial. And it wouldn't just be the railroad companies, right? So, and that's the point of having power, right?
Yes.
And that is
That
why
is
you broke
exactly,
the strike.
that's right. That's right. I mean, there are low-wage workers, and in this case, it's not necessarily the railway workers. They've been organized. They have some collective bargaining power that's given them some decent wages and benefits. They still deserve sick days. They still deserve a say in their working conditions. But there's whole swaths of this modern logistics or supply chain economy that are workers that are living in poverty, scraping by, working in nodes of the supply chain, working in warehouses. Workers who have incredible power, but they're not able to organize for whatever reason. They're counted as independent contractors. They're not covered by labor law. And it's still segments of the economy the president or the government could do something about. But I think, maybe they want to keep these critical workers unempowered.
That's right.
Maybe there's something to that, and we should think about that.
Yeah, I mean, they're afraid that they might actually wake up and feel their power and then not stop asking for things that they deserve. Labor has been beaten down for so many decades now that the defeatist attitude we've been feeling has been just, a long time sitting there. But now I think it's changing. I think that there is an increase in labor power. More companies are losing their gambits to unions forming. We see that with Amazon. We see it with Starbucks. We see it with others. So I think there is a shift and change in the way people are viewing that, which is good. It's a necessary component to affecting real change in the country. I want to also mention, Manchin's dirty deal. That was a win. That is a zombie bill, though, that keeps coming back. I think that Biden had promised him another turn at that bill, that would give him the pipeline. When he agreed to the Inflation Reduction Act, right? So there was a trade-off that was made. So we stopped it last week, but I don't think that it's over. I think it might come back again. What is your take on Manchin's dirty deal?
Well, it is going to, from what I understand from talking to our allies on the Hill, the other side is trying to push a vote. They're trying to get the NDAA amended to include this. And look,
even now
they haven't given up, right? And we'll be on the Hill tomorrow mobilizing against it, and we're generating phone calls to senators. The truth is, this is a pivotal moment for the climate justice movement, and the pivotal moment is this: we cannot afford to keep building fossil fuel extracting infrastructure if we're going to meet any of the goals to save our planet and our climate. And it is in some ways hypocritical for the administration to go out and say we are the most pro-climate administration in history, and look, passing the measures they did in the Inflation Reduction Act are positive steps forward. But they can't cancel it out by cutting this side deal with Manchin and saying, we're going to keep the fossil fuels flowing. That won't work. And that's why we're going all out to stop it. And, we do have to call out the administration and Democrats who are on the wrong side. Just like they're on the wrong side of labor, they're on the wrong side of this fight.
So, Joseph, first of all, I thought I was having a decent hair day today, but you just put me to shame, man. I gotta after the show, you gotta send me some tips. I mean, it's perfect pompadour, sir. I'm a little envious, not gonna lie, but
well, thank you, Ron.
You're welcome. So I wanted to talk a little bit about just the anatomy of our revolution, the organization. I mean, to my understanding and what interaction that I've had, the organization seems very heavily focused in the electoral realm. And now, a lot of people have had some frustrations just towards that process, myself being one of them, understandably so for all of us. And now, I seem to be hearing more about like an inside outside strategy. So is the organization kind of expanding a bit and focusing more outside of electoral politics? And if so, like what exactly does that look like from an organizing standpoint?
So I would, when you ask what our revolution is about, I would argue that we are fundamentally about the politics of power.
Okay.
And we're trying to figure out how do we build an enduring, progressive power base in the United States. That being said, I think part of it is being able to wield power in the electoral arena. But in the same way, I think it's important to wield power in particular issue fights. It is really important to play within the Democratic Party to call them out. We're in a two-party system. We've got to call Democrats out and try to take over the party, because the truth is they should represent us, not the corporate interest. But at the end of the day, again, what our revolution is about building power. And it starts at the grassroots, and it starts with organizing. And what moves people, at least the folks that we're engaging, is, what is it that we can do to improve the standard of living for ourselves, our families, our communities? Yeah. And then when you ask that question and you ask people, what do you care about? They say, well, I'm worried about keeping a roof over my head. I'm worried about making sure my kids can go to college. I'm worried about the future of the planet. I'm worried about making a living wage. If you follow the answers to those questions, some of the answers lie in the electoral realm. It does lie in making sure we elect people who are not afraid to stand up to corporate interests and say, yes, we should have unions for all. We should have living wages for all. But it also means calling the question on the rich and powerful by organizing around issues that we care about. Even though, for example, Medicare for all is incredibly popular, we don't have popular support within the Democratic power structure. And then it's incumbent on us to do what it takes to make that a reality, which is, trying to put more progressives in the Democratic Party, trying to take out Democrats who don't support it, and so, but that all being said, our goal, I think, is to be powerful so that we can advance the issues that matter to us, right? And I would argue, in some cases, there's no permanent allies, there's no permanent enemies, there's only permanent interests. And our interests are the economic interest, the material interest of the 99%. And we have to do whatever we can do, whatever it takes to win, right? And that's the way we think about our work. It's rooted in a vision of the world as it should be, but we're organizing in the world as it is. And that's power politics. And whichever side either has more money or more people will win. And the struggle for groups like our revolution is we're not organizing big donors, right? We're organizing small donors. We're organizing local folks and local communities to go out. And we're outmatched a lot of times, especially when it comes to big money.
Let me ask you this, Joseph. There's a whole group of voters that 5 years ago would have agreed with you. And they were Bernie Sanders supporters, but they're highly disappointed with the outcomes, with DNC shenanigans, with electing members to Congress like, maybe AOC, who they feel that has not fulfilled her obligation as being a progressive, maybe ignored some stuff that she said she was going to do. So they feel like they've lived through cycles of disappointment, and they no longer see the Democratic Party as a viable means of getting electoral power. What is your response to somebody that says that to you?
What I would say is, yeah, look, disappointments are real, and they are part of the territory when it comes to organizing and creating lasting social change. Look, it is rare that one election, one candidate transforms history. It has never happened. And even when you think about the civil rights movement, when you think about other transformational movements in our country, there were decades of organizing and base building and putting allies into power that resulted in change. And so what I would say is this is like, we can't give up and can't lose hope. We have, as a movement, for the first time in decades, created a progressive voting bloc in Congress where, with the Congressional Progressive Caucus, where there is a block of votes that if we can get them to act in discipline, we have real power, right? We actually get to
discipline's the key.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and it's on us.
I think a lot of people are a little frustrated because they're not acting in discipline. So how do we change that trend? Because it's been going on for a while now that they just have not acted as a block. And if they could, even though they're still grossly outnumbered, if they acted as a block, that's the first step in using the leverage you got. And it just hasn't been happening. And that's been frustrating.
Well, and that's where I think that's where we're learning as move. I mean, the CPC did not get to a point of having, I would say, enough votes. And that's what it comes down to in the House, right? I mean, decision makers, leaders in the House and Senate, leaders in the White House, they'll pay attention to you if you say, I represent a chunk of votes, and you know what? If you go against us, we're going to fuck you. And
boom. Yes, that's exactly right. Why don't they realize that? They have that power.
Yeah. So the challenge is, for us as progressives to make sure that the people that we put in power hold the line. Okay. That's on us, I think. And then, the other part is if they don't, we got to take them out and replace them with people who do, right? But that, in order to do that, it does require staying within our current electoral frame. I mean, if we could blow up the system and create a parliamentary system, a different system, I'd be with you. Should we have a worker labor party? Yeah, we should. But the current framework that we're operating in is one that I think gives us leverage if we organize. And that's the thing. Even in another universe, say in a universe that was multi-party, if we didn't organize, we wouldn't have leverage, right? We'd have to organize. The rules of the game might be a little bit different. We may not need as many votes to be a coalition partner, but at the end of the day, it comes down to organizing. And I don't think the Democratic Party or the progressive movement has organized enough, right? And we in the Democratic Party as progressives have not done enough to move the needle because, we're still complaining and losing. And so it makes me think, man, we got to get up and push these folks even further. I was in a legislative meeting the other day. It was a public meeting with elected leaders in one of our states, with some of our members talking about the legislative agenda coming up. And these were progressive electeds, people that we helped endorse and put in power. And we were talking about the issues. And one of the issues that came up was, we need to fight for the tip minimum wage, right? We can't allow, one set of workers to make less. And some of the progressive elected said, you know what, we're with you, but no se puede.
What? That's shocking to me. Why can't they? I don't understand.
Well, and so that's the thing, because
you're like, wrong answer.
Right. No, and I think, it is the wrong answer. Is it challenging? Yes. But we won't take no for an answer. And that's where we've got to do the organizing to even make our allies feel like they can go out and legitimately win on an issue. Is it easy? No. But what they're saying is, well, we need, masses of people
Yeah.
to come to the state house and say this is important. Well, okay, we'll do that. But you know what? We need you not to say it's not possible,
Right.
because your responsibility is to represent us and to stand up, right? So we'll do our part, but you've got to be able to go against the power structure yourself. So it's that kind of relationship that we're engaged in,
Right.
and it's a negotiation, and even with our allies, right, forcing them to be on the right side of stuff. But that being said,
Yeah.
organizing's hard. It's long term, and that being said, I think the trajectory is we have, the fact that we have a vibrant progressive movement in this country after so many years of right wing rule. And of course, we still have a lot to contend with. But, it is amazing to me that we have people like Bernie Sanders, and we have masses of people who voted and are interested in left politics in this country, which makes me hopeful that as we mature, we'll get more strategic, we'll get more numbers, right, and we'll able to win. But that's what it comes down to, is organizing and strategy.
I
Well, let
also
me ask
think.
you-
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Ron.
Let me ask you as a strategy question, because I mean, we could have a very long conversation about third party or dem entering, blah blah blah. We could have that conversation for a very long time. But the one thing that I have found both strategies have in common is some rules need to change. I mean, like
Yeah.
I totally understand we're operating in a certain system, and I get that too. However, there are some rules that we could really fight to change, like getting money out of politics, ranked choice voting, things like that, that I think kind of bleed into electoralism still and also get overlooked, because I think
Yeah.
those rule changes are necessary to really have a chance to have a progressive movement, be it successful within or outside the Democratic Party.
No, I think that's right. And I think that comes down to organizing, right? I mean, it is like, can we build a movement that's powerful enough to fight on those types of issues, rewrite the rules so that big money doesn't dominate our political economy? But the problem is, I mean, but it's on us. We're not organized enough yet to be a credible challenge to the way the rules are written, or even to some Democrats who, basically, yes, the progressive movement, right? They want our votes at election time, and then they screw us over when it matters. That's not acceptable. But I put the blame, it doesn't make me say fuck politics. I'm going to walk away from the public arena. It makes me think I got to be better as an organizer.
Sure.
I got to go talk to more people. I got to get smarter about the way I play. That's what Martin Luther King, right? I mean, that's what, people like A. Philip Randolph did, right? They, over decades, organized, right? And they won some fights, they lost some fights, but it was a constant effort of mobilizing people day in, day out around a strategy. And honestly, whatever system we live in, it's got to be rooted in mobilization and activism, and activism that's smart. It's not just pointless protest, but it's protest that actually has some theory of winning or advancing, the cause forward.
I agree with you there. Protest for the sake of protest isn't necessarily effective. Let me ask you this. I think part of that strategy and the organizational structure changes, implementations that need to happen, really have to come from the DNC itself. I know Larry Cohen has been a large fighter for reform in the DNC. Jim Zogby has been. I've sat through so many meetings watching those guys, do their best to get around the establishment Democrats. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of those delegates are lobbyists. It comes to mind when I watched them kill the climate change bill, and the first person that came out on the floor to speak about it was an oil lobbyist, Maria Cardona. So there's so many things going on inside the DNC that are also stopping change. And what do we do about that? Because that's its own party policy machinations. It's not necessarily something that you can change without really, really infiltrating it, which is hard to do because these are not all elected positions. They're appointed.
Well, no, that's a good point. It is. I mean, people don't realize in the world that we live in, the way our democracy works, that it is a two-party system, and there's this party system that they don't really teach you about in grade school, right? Like this is how elections happen. They don't tell you. Well, there's a party,
a powerful party,
party. It plays a gatekeeper function.
Yeah,
and we don't realize that growing up and going through civic school and all that stuff. But that's one thing that at our revolution that's fundamental to our theory of change is like we do need to infiltrate, take over, transform the party. And it's just like at Congress where it comes down to who's got the votes to win. And what we've been doing is working with local grassroots activists around the country to help them win seats at precinct levels, at city council and county levels, and at state levels. And again, our theory of change is we need to build progressive voting blocks, whether on Capitol Hill, disciplined progressive voting blocks. Right, whether on Capitol Hill or within Democratic Party bodies or formations around the country. But that's the key part, because if we can form those blocks, we have a real chance to change the rules, move legislation. I think there's a viable path. Just to give you one other example that I think is incredibly hopeful that you're not going to read a lot about in the mainstream media, but is St. Louis, right? We just elected an amazing Bernie delegate to become an alderperson. Then the last round, now she is just got elected president of the St. Louis Board of Aldermen.
That's great.
Is going to partner, right? So there is a progressive governing majority, right? So it's not just the president. The last cycle, we elected the mayor, right? So we've got the mayor, the president of the city council, and a block of, aldermen who are aligned to push a set of progressive policies. And what we've got to do as activists is make sure we organize to give them the support, because the other side's mobilizing, right? I mean, the police unions, the real estate lobby, they're doing everything they can to make sure our progressive voting bloc in St. Louis doesn't pass a progressive agenda. We've got to organize to push back. That's on us. But, the fact that we got that block in place is important. And that's what I would argue we need to do, whether it's in the Maryland Democratic Party or the Massachusetts Democratic Party or the DNC. We've got to make sure we're electing enough progressives and then organizing them to have a decisive vote. And it's still a work in progress. But that being said, you mentioned Larry. Larry is, and others like Jane Klebb, who's on our board.
Yeah, Jane's great too.
Yeah, they're leading an effort to form a progressive voting bloc. But unfortunately, it doesn't happen overnight. And yes, are there rich lobbyists and consultants that do business at the DNC that are trying to screw us? Yes. And it's really
if people haven't attended any DNC meetings, they do have open meetings that are open to the public. Not all of them, but a lot of them are. Yeah. Most of them are, quite frankly. I encourage people to do this because I think if more people saw firsthand how this rolls out, they would maybe understand a little bit better what we're dealing with. But, hats off to Larry Cohen. He's always in there fighting the fight, I have to say. And he's very calm about it, too. When he speaks, he's very calm. I'm like back there going, are you kidding me? He's very calm.
No, that's right. But it's a long term. Larry's been a member of the DNC for several decades, I think. And it's only now that they, it's probably the most powerful voting bloc of progressives they've ever had. And, are they winning some fights? Yes. Are they losing some fights? Yes. And it just speaks to, the fact that we've got to get much more disciplined. I would argue the party moving the first voting state to South Carolina, that's like a big fuck you to progressives, is it not?
Yeah, yes. It is intentional. It is by design, and it absolutely is a big fuck you to progressives. It's just so these are the kinds of things I'm talking about, and they add up, right? They might seem like it's like death by a million cuts, right? all of these things eventually add up to a bigger thing. The DNC knows how to stop progressive politics. They're a well-oiled machine. They have members that are very much ingrained in establishment politics in DC, whether they're lobbyists, attorneys for corporations, whatnot. And they know what they're doing. They've played this game a long time. So they are very skilled at it. But I do think that it is changing a little bit. I would also give a shout out to Jim Zogby. I know that he's been a tough fighter in that arena as well. But I do think people should see it. I mean, it would help them to understand what it is we're up against, because it's just not a simple, easy fight.
That's right. Yeah, no, people should show up at the meetings and then get involved, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in their local Democratic Party structures, because it really is the foundational step for transforming American democracy. And look, if we had enough, activists taking over the Democratic Party, that we would
make a huge change, I think.
Yeah, we'd have a much easier chance getting Medicare for all. We'd have a much easier chance getting the Green New Deal. But it's a very micro level of organizing. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't understand. It's our job to educate them and then give them pathways to get involved and support them, right?
I mean, if there was more progressive power there, they wouldn't have been able to move the first one to South Carolina, right? So that is decision. My point is that is a decision they made. They knew it would benefit their establishment candidates, and it's what they do time and time again. And the reason they can do that is because there are not enough progressives in these power positions. So, I mean, run for your local, if you're interested in being an activist, run for your local delegate system inside the party if you have an interest in doing that.
Well, or just try to take over, your local city government. I mean, you mentioned St. Louis. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. One thing that I've learned, and I think a lot of the country is learning, is local is where we can win. And the real estate developers, they figured that out a long freaking time ago. We got a lot of catching up to do. So, I mean, does our revolution, is there some organization on that level where you have local chapters and people are just kind of strategizing on how to take over their cities? And will that continue to grow?
We have one in LA, in fact.
What's that? I'm sorry.
We have one in LA, in fact.
Yeah, no, it is the local, hyper-local organizing that at the end of the day is what the organization is rooted in. I think people think, what is our revolution? Oh, that's the group that Bernie started. It grew out of his presidential campaigns. Yes, but it's actually much more. It's really about building long-term progressive power. I would argue that just like the religious right has churches, right? They have a network of faith-based organizations that they use for organizational purposes. The Democratic Party used to have unions at a local level. That's gotten wiped out with the help of the Democratic Party. But in the same way, our revolution is, right, like labor, we want to be rooted in local communities, local cells of people who have shared values about the way we see the world. And then we have some real ways to act on it. Because, it's, you want, how do you make reality happen? Well, you've got to go out and act in the world, which is really probably your neighborhood, your city council, your county commissioner. And so that's where our organizing starts, and then it scales up. But our work has been really focused on ground up change. One, because you got to organize at the grassroots. Second is, a lot of times local level bodies, legislative bodies, are laboratories of experiment. It's places where you can pass innovative legislation that then are models that you can take to a state level or ultimately to a federal level. So all of that goes to saying is, I think it all starts at ground zero, which is at the local level, where at the end of the day, it's the level of government that impacts our lives the most, right? And then you can build up on that, but our work is not abstract. It is rooted in everyday fights about, is that developer going to get money from the city? No, we won't, but only if we stand up and organize against it. Right.
Right. So I know you got to go. I'd love to have you back on again to talk about more stuff. Thanks for joining
Absolutely.
us today for this conversation. We appreciate Joseph. And where can people follow you on Twitter, et cetera, if they want to stay in touch with your work?
So it's Our Revolution, and you can go to our website, ourrevolution.com. Our handle is The Political Revolution. You can find us on Facebook, Our Revolution. And I look forward to being back on the show and being in conversation with you and your wonderful audience about how we continue to move the movement forward.
Right on, right on. Thanks, Joseph.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right. We still have so many other things to talk about. Speaking of things that are happening in Congress, I did want to point out that Senator Merkley has introduced a new bill that would ban hedge funds from owning residential housing. Can
Something
we
they should have never been able to do in the first place.
I 100% agree with you there. And, it's been happening for a while. They started buying up large swaths of housing stock after the 2008 meltdown. Part of the reason they were able to do that is because the federal government was selling them as blocks, right? As chunks. So you couldn't just bid on one house. You were buying a block of foreclosed houses, which made it very difficult for a small guy to come in there and buy houses, but it made it very easy for a hedge fund to do it. Plus, they had all the money, right? They had just extracted so much wealth in that bank meltdown. They had cash sitting there to do it. So they bought up a lot of houses. They rent them. They are more likely to evict tenants for lesser reasons than a smaller landlord is. There's a host of reasons why it's problematic. So Senator Merkley is introducing a bill that would change some of that. If we can put up that announcement, Colin, I want to read part of this. So I want to go down to following the 2008 housing crisis, large private equity firms and hedge funds bought substantial portfolios of foreclosed homes as an investment opportunity. The federal government enabled this growth through bulk sales of federally backed mortgages and foreclosed properties, which is what I was just sort of discussing here. This decision excluded ordinary families and mission-driven nonprofits from buying these homes and returning them to families in need of stable housing. Large-scale hedge fund investors are accelerating their harmful takeovers in recent years. Data from 2021 show the fastest year-over-year increase in hedge fund home purchases in 16 years. For example, in 2021, large hedge fund investors bought 42.8% of homes for sale in the Atlanta metro area and 38.8% of homes in the Phoenix area. That's outrageous. That is absolutely outrageous. So Merkley introduced this bill. Hopefully it passes. We'll have to keep our eye on it and see where it goes. But
I'd be surprised if it does. I mean, It's such a no-brainer that it's frightening that this even needs to be a law. That it's like, oh, hey, we shouldn't let a bunch of profiteer hedge funders buy up all the
housing stock.
In place. And this has been going on. I mean, here in Southern California, look, Southern California is the most competitive housing market in the country, pretty much, which it'll always be that way. But part of the reason it is as extreme as it is because you have, these hedge fund entities, they just gobble up stuff for cash, so the only stuff that's available to people is 1.5 million and above. I mean, it's absolutely nuts. And you're like, who's gobbling this stuff up? Who just bought this condo for cash? Oh, this entity, who knows where?
Yeah, some LLC.
Empty and dormant. It's absolutely nuts. And by the way, in other countries, this isn't legal. In a lot of other countries,
they have vacancy taxes, right? So, I mean, maybe this is something we should also look at in this country. Like, for example, in Vancouver, they have a vacancy tax. So you can't, if you leave your hedge fund property vacant without a tenant, you get penalized. You pay a tax on that. So something like that would kind of force them to lower rents and make the housing available for a more affordable price. Is the theory?
In Denmark, you can have one house that you live in. You can have one property that you rent out. If that's something you're looking to get into, you can have one of them. You can't have more than one. You can have frickin' one. And then if you have anything else, it's got to be like maybe a lake house or something like that. That's it. You can't own more property than that.
Really? I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. And that's the way it should be everywhere. Why do you need more? Why do you need, I'm sorry, folks. being a landlord is not a job. It's not a job. It's an investment.
It's an investment. No, 100% it is. Real estate investment.
So,
yeah, I agree with you there.
if you want to, and that's fine if you're going to invest in that, but really it shouldn't be all these like commercial conglomerates that own swaths of property. It should be like, okay, you get one, you can rent it out, whatever. There's no reason why our laws shouldn't mirror that. It's ridiculous that it's gotten to this point where they need a law. Because there's so much empty housing in this freaking country. It could house people many times over.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It's part and parcel of the problem is that we've also lost a lot of affordable housing and apartments because we cut back on those regulations after Costa-Hawkins here in LA, at least, and California. Other states have similar laws that they put in place. So, it's a perfect storm, really. It's unfortunate. So hopefully this changes that.
Honestly, a perfect storm is what we need. A perfect storm that
in the other direction, though, right?
We need to build everything again.
Yeah, well, there you go.
No, it's so interesting too when you take it a step further and you look at like what to do about just what's homelessness and what's going on in our society. Something like Housing First has had a 100% success rate everywhere it's been tried around the world.
Right.
But that's a very tall glass of water here in the United States because we have this predatory, disgusting housing market that you have to overcome.
We have to overcome it, but I guess my thing is it has gotten remarkably worse after 2008. I don't think if the hedge funds had come in there and bought up these blocks of housing starting back after the meltdown, that we'd be in the place that we are now, right? That just became the new place that they were parking cash because they could, and you're in these individual small, landlords or mom and pops or just individuals that wanted to buy houses. They weren't able to participate in any of those foreclosure auctions. It was impossible, right? I don't need to buy 10 houses. I need to buy one. So why the government decided to do it that way is really problematic, but it is sort of the root of the start of the particular cycle we're in right now, where it's just gotten worse and worse.
It's
previously
just the level of capitalism we're in.
It's
100% like the cycles repeat. All of this started like the ridiculous system we have. It all started because somebody just showed up and declared that a bunch of shit was theirs, and then charged people.
Right.
I think the person's name was Rensselaer. That's where we get rent. And so they started like.
Wait, are you making that up or is that a joke?
No, that's real.
Really, that's real?
Yeah. Yeah, and you would give part of your harvest as the quote unquote rent, and then it slowly evolved into what we have now, and it's gotten, it's gotten more severe and less severe depending on like the cycle we were in, and now it's just like a completely unprotected, just free for all for the developers of the world.
No, 100%. It's just crazy though. But even during like FDR's term, you wouldn't have seen this sort of thing happening. Like I think even conservatives at that time would be like, yeah, no, giant banks buying up 50 houses at once. That's probably not a good idea. It's just wild that that's become like through these cycles, escalating cycles, this is the normal thing now. It's just crazy. It just doesn't make sense.
And if you go back like before that, it's like, we had the robber baron days and stuff like that. So it's like, things kind of come in.
But at least robber barons weren't buying up. I guess there was the company housing. There was that could be similar. I don't know. I just feel like it's much worse now.
No, now it's even worse.
Okay.
Now it's even worse. I'm just saying, like, we go in cycles, and it's like a cycle kind of reaches its breaking point, and now we're in this cycle that is just clearly reaching its breaking point. So hopefully this thing passes. I don't have much confidence that it will, but
I don't either.
By all means, I hope that I'm proven wrong.
No, but at least he's putting it out there and bringing it. In the very least, there's going to be a discussion about it now, and I think a lot of folks weren't aware to the extent of this was going on.
Should we? Why don't we hit a couple super chats?
Yeah, let's do that.
The next story. Travis Wolf, so what's up, man? You say progressives turn right-wing corporate quicker than a possum on a hot tip.
Wait, when was Cinema ever a progressive, though? Hang on.
Well, didn't she start out as a green?
She was green, but I don't think she was ever a progressive, in my opinion.
I think it was just cosplaying on her part.
I think it was cosplay. I think she's always been.
Guess she fooled some folks. I don't know. I don't remember.
That's possible.
Because it was like 20 years ago, right? That she was a green. Like it was a while ago.
I don't know. It was a while ago. I don't think it was that long ago.
I don't know. I mean, now she's an independent because she's such a free thinker.
Now she's just done. She's just
she
done.
does whatever the corporations tell her to do. She's
well, in fact, wait, I have a tweet on that. In fact, wait. We might as well bring this up right now. Colin, I sent you that tweet about cinema and Elon Musk that was absolutely hilarious. I don't know if you can find it.
Ja'Cory Arthur says, organize. Oh, here's the tweet. In the interest of the people, good for Senator Sinema. I hope more of our elected leaders act independently, aka in the interest of the people. Yeah, I love.
But hang on, you have to. Can we scroll through all of the screenshots because there's multiple ones there and they're very funny. So this one's Christine Sinema. Yeah, there we go. Sinema rakes in farm and finance cash amid reconciliation negotiations. Christine Sinema takes thousands in campaign contributions from pharmaceutical giants while stalling prescription drug pricing reforms. Sinema received nearly $1 million from Wall Street while killing tax hike on investors. Yeah, for the people. Yeah, right. Got you there.
Yeah, well, we're in a wave now where they make it out like independent and free thinking. It is really just like a lot of times it's just a dog whistle for super right wing. I mean, that's what it means when Elon Musk says it. That's what it means when Kristen Sinema says it, and we know this. It's a freaking.
I have a new nickname for Elon Musk.
What is it?
So it's $8, like $8 Chan, like because Twitter's now $8 Chan. $8 Chan reply guy.
That's what Twitter's turning into. I mean,
because if you watch what he's doing, he's literally replying to every like super right wing guy that's like out there that he's reinstated. Like he's in their mentions, like Kyle Rittenhouse, like all of them. You're like, okay, you're like 8chan reply guy. That's your thing. Mm-hmm.
8chan reply guy. Tommy says, Status Coup news. Tell him we need something faster. The climate can't wait for decades. That's true. We are in a sense of urgency. That's the reality. That's definitely the reality. Ja'Cory Arthur says organizing is the only way. Absolutely, I'm with you. Fly Chopper Fly. I like that handle. Thank you for the Super Chat contribution. You help keep this show on the air. And you say, reminder, getting money out of politics was Bernie's first goal if he got in. I saved his quote. Yeah. It was top of mind for him. Yeah, see, that's the thing. And that
it's the root of all evil. Money in politics.
It's like whatever strategy you favor in electoralism, if the rules don't change,
we're screwed.
Possible. Yeah. Even if you think, and I think taking over the Democratic Party is a huge glass of water that I think is very, very unlikely. I think we're better off with a third party. But I also recognize, I do.
Okay, please explain this to me because I'm going to have to give you pushback on that. How? Because we are in a two-party system.
Because the rules have to change no matter what.
Ron, where does a third party even start to get any power whatsoever at all?
Because if the rules change, that's the only way there's any chance. Well, explain this to me. How do you take over the Democratic Party if the rules do not change? If you don't get money out of politics, when you have an entity...
Well, I don't think that's a party problem. That's a government problem. I mean, we have to have the 28th Amendment at this point to overturn the SCOTUS decision. I agree that needs to happen.
So that's going
to take buy-in from all walks of politics, whether you're on the right, the left, or...
And also, if you're trying to take over an entity, so... They have the DCCC, they have the DNC. They spent over $50 million squashing progressive challengers. They'll just spend $50 million more if they have to. Again, is it an impossible?
I'm not refuting any of that. I think that's all correct. Right. I just don't see how a third party has more power. That's all. I just don't.
They don't.
And I'm saying this as somebody. I don't think they ever will. Listen, and I voted for third party candidates. You know that. I've totally done that. But at the same time, I mean, I don't see the path.
I don't see the path taking over the Democratic Party either unless the rules change. I mean, the
rules have got to change. I agree with you.
So either way, we need the same rules to change. And I don't really, if the rules change,
I think the internal party rules need to change. Let me be clear. There's two kinds of rules that need to change. The systemic problems like Citizens United, things like that. Those things need to change 100%.
Right.
But also what needs to change are the DNC rules that are just very problematic if you're a progressive, that have been put in place. And all of those rules are being done by people in the party that are either appointed or they won delegate positions. That's all I'm saying is that changing that landscape would change a lot, believe it or not, because it would
No,
allow.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's
all
a
I'm
very
saying.
tall glass of water, though. I mean,
I think it's
I'm
less of a
glad
tall
people are
glass than a
trying.
third party. That's all I'm saying. I think it's easier to do than.
Time will tell. I mean, I'm
right.
not so convinced. I mean, either way, hey, guess what? If the systemic rules don't change, either thing is just a pipe
We're
dream.
fucked. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so either thing is just a pipe dream. That's why, like, my thing, focus on changing those rules, then we'll see where we're at. I mean, if we have
No, it's
more progressive
depressing.
representation in government, I don't give a shit what's next to their name. I don't give a.
Oh,
if
I'm
it's a
with
B,
you on
If it's a
that.
G, I couldn't give two shits.
I'm with
But
you on
unless
that.
the systemic rules change, neither thing is possible. And I think a lot of like Dementer folks, they kind of ignore that part. They ignore the part that like, well, we still need the same rules to change. Your
Right.
idea that we're just, I mean, it sounds like you're just saying we're going to take over, we're going to take over Amazon or something like well, you need the rules to change.
Right, but that's
basically
why we
take
have
over
a
a
union, right? So
corporation.
you create a union and then you go in there and you fight with your union to get the rules to change. None of this is going to be easy. The really sad situation is that we've been giving away our rights by sleeping at the wheel for decades now. I think
So we have a
great
lot
people.
to undo.
We have a lot to undo, and it's not going to be easy either route. Like nothing is easy here. It's just, but what choice do we have? So many things are untenable at this point. We've reached a point where, like just the income inequality, that in and of itself, that problem, fixing that is going to be tremendously difficult. But if we don't fix it, that's it.
Well,
Climate
yeah, there's
change.
a lot of things if we don't fix, like that's it. I mean, it's like we're on path. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, if I had to sum it up in one sentence, we're either going to have a massive general strike that is going to force the status quo to change for the better, or we're going to enter a level of feudalism that even this country has never really seen before. Like at least as this existed in its current state, has never
I
really
agree.
seen before.
I think we're headed in that direction.
Those
on
are your
that path
frickin' choices.
now. Yeah.
We are heading on that path. So, I mean, either something, and voting is not going to take that away. Like, I mean, I'm not saying don't vote, but voting by itself is not going to take that away.
I agree.
But we got to be smart about it. Kind of, it's like you have to be smart in your demands. You have to be smart in the policies that you're fighting for. That's why when somebody is just like, well, electoralism is my lane, my response is, okay, that's great. But is it just a matter of you get people that can recite platitudes back to you and then you run them with no strategy whatsoever and then they freaking lose time and time again? Or are you fighting for these rule changes? Electoralism's your lane. Are you fighting for ranked choice voting? Are you fighting to get money out of politics? If the answer is no, electoralism's not really your lane. Pipe dreams are your fucking lane. And we don't have time for pipe dreams.
I agree with you, but you know what? The good news is ranked choice voting is winning in many areas. So
I know, and I'm glad
that is great. Yeah, I'm happy to see that happening. We are going to probably have a ranked choice bill here in California coming. So.
Oh, are we?
Yeah.
Bro, that's awesome. That was a metaphorical just bro to the world. I wasn't calling you bro.
I'm not
you're
offended.
not a bro. I'm not. But
bro.
It was a yeah. Well, I hope you're right.
Bro.
I mean, that's awesome. I hadn't heard about that, but I'm excited.
It's in the works. They don't have all their signatures and whatnot yet, but it's definitely in the works.
Well, they can get one more. Tell them to hit me up. I got a signature. I got a signature for them. Dave L, fun idea. Get Jill Stein on the show to talk about cinema. I would
love to have Jill Stein on the show.
Yeah.
I will reach out to her.
Yeah, that would be a really fun conversation. She's so polite, though. I can't imagine her ever. I've never seen her.
I don't think she'd ever use the F word. Maybe
I
I'm
could
wrong.
see her dropping an F-bomb.
Maybe.
I just could never see her saying anything disparaging about anybody.
All right.
She's the most careful person with her words that I've ever met.
Yeah.
Like,
I agree.
like one of them. I mean, she's like so, and that's why it's like, when you look at the Green Party's presidential choices, it's interesting. And I'm not trying to be mean here. I'm just being honest. Like Jill Stein was one of the most careful with her words people I've ever seen. Howie Hawkins was totally not
a
that.
Mess. Yeah.
Like he wasn't. Like I'm not trying to be. I'm just being honest. I mean, I've had this conversation with friends of mine who are Greens.
Yeah.
He was just not that.
No.
At all.
He was
And
definitely not.
It's like.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm not saying third parties are going to be easy either. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah, they're not.
I know.
Although it's much easier at the local level. I think it's because of the electoral college. I don't see how presidential. I don't say it's possible. But having said that, if you're in the state like California and you know that your vote's not really going to change the outcome of the presidential election, you vote for, Jill Stein or whatever third party candidate because you want to see that 6% threshold get reached. That makes sense to me. That is, that is a tactic.
Strategy.
It's a strategy. Yeah.
Well, look, I'll put it this way. If everybody in this country who lived, I don't like to use the word safe state because I don't think there's anything safe about the Electoral College. I call it a decided state. If everybody who lived in this
country,
that's
fair. Decided state, that's good.
I live in a
more
decided
precise.
State. Yeah, we both live in decided states. We live in the same one. If everybody who lived in a decided state, whether it was decided red or decided blue, if everyone who lived in a decided state voted for a third-party candidate, if that reflected their values, whether it's green or libertarian, someone would get to 5%.
I think so, because I think it's probably on par with statistically probably 5 or 6% of each of those states that have that percent. I mean, that percentage of voters probably would agree with one of these third-party candidates. So yeah, I think that's on par.
I mean,
but too many people. Part of the place that we're in too is driven by fear, right? Fear of like, could this get worse? And my answer to that is like, yeah, it can totally get worse. It absolutely can get worse. Trump is not the worst we've seen. Believe me, it can get worse than Trump. So I also understand why some people vote from that position. They are deeply concerned about, well, like, I don't particularly like Biden, but goddamn, we can't take another 4 years of Trump, kind of a thing. I understand
ranked choice voting. Ranked choice voting.
Ranked choice voting would be, yes, awesome across the board.
And that's the thing. And that's why I kind of say what I do, because it's like we all need the same rules to change. And if those rules do change, which they need to, then all of a sudden, like, we're not shackled by a two-party system anymore.
Yeah, like, shackled's a good word. That's what we are.
So it's like, so then it's just like, my thing is, let's focus on changing those rules and then just figure out where we're at. But that's not really a weekend task. So.
No, that's.
But Neo's algorithm, everything you're saying, Ron, is super relevant to Force the Primary 2024. Sub Neo's algorithm on YouTube, guys. Thank you for that, Neo's. I enjoyed your video. Thank you for that. And let's go to the letter. Isn't that next?
The letter. On my list, I have. Hang on, I shut my window out.
We have Bernie's letter.
Oh yeah, we can look at that. That's the letter that he sent to
Bernie
Biden.
Bernie wrote Tina a letter.
No.
Saying how much he enjoyed this show. That'd be cool.
That'd be awesome. Bernie, love you. No. No, he wrote a letter with 70 other Congress folks to Biden asking him to sign an executive order giving the railway strikers 7 days of paid sick leave. So we can put that up. Yeah. Let me, Ron, or Colin, do you have that?
I like how Colin and I are just interchangeable to you.
I know.
Who knows what name you're going to say?
Wait, hang on. Let me find my... Here it is. Okay.
That's really small.
I know. That's why I have to put it up on my screen so I can read it.
I've read this before. The first part of the letter is a bit hard to get through, because, Dear President Biden, thank you for your hard work in negotiating a rail labor agreement. That should say, Dear President Biden, you screwed over the unions. That's what that should say. Yeah,
why did you step in and break a strike? Yeah, I agree with you there.
But here's the other part of that letter. And yeah, that part's annoying. If it gets him to act and do something, whatever, I can put up with the bullshit. But the thing about that letter...
Yeah, it does. Here's the thing. If he comes right out and says, Biden, you suck, you broke a strike, you're not pro-union, he's not going to read the rest of the letter.
I understand that. So the thing in the rest of that letter, they lay out, and this is what I'm really upset isn't getting any headlines, although I expect nothing less. They lay out not one, not two, three. Hold on, let me make sure I've got three. They lay out 3 ways they could still give the rail workers their sick time.
Yeah.
There's a way you can do it via the Secretary of Transportation. There's a way you can do it via the Secretary of Labor. And there's an executive order that the president can do. Right. So those aren't 3 ways. 3 freaking ways that they could still get them, which, by the way, this is not even adequate. They asked for 15 days, not 7. but there's still a way, at the very least, you could give them the bare minimum here and at least look a little better than completely freaking ridiculous.
I do want to read part of this letter, though.
Go for it.
So the American people are sick and tired of the extraordinary corporate greed that has been taking place throughout our country. At a time when corporate profits are soaring, working families across the country are struggling to keep their heads above water economically. There is no such better example of this corporate greed than what we are seeing in the rail industry. In the first 3 quarters of this year, the rail industry has made over $21 billion in profits while providing their CEOs with huge compensation packages. Meanwhile, in the year 2022, workers in the rail industry receive 0 paid sick days. What this means is that if a rail worker comes down with COVID, the flu, or some other illness and calls in sick, that worker will not only receive no pay, but will be penalized and in some cases fired. We cannot allow that to continue. Guaranteeing 7 paid sick days to rail workers would cost the industry a grand total of $321 million, less than 2% of their annual profits. 2%, that's it, guys. If the rail industry can afford to spend $25.5 billion in stock buybacks and dividends to enrich their wealthy shareholders, they can afford to treat their workers with respect and the dignity they deserve. This is true. So they spend a lot of money on share buybacks. And for folks that don't know what that is, they buy back open shares on the market, reduces the number of shares outstanding. It drives the value of the stock higher. So there's a reason they do that. It will enrich the shareholders. I also want to read the next paragraph and point something out here. It says, as president, you and your administration have a number of tools at your disposal to make sure rail workers are guaranteed paid sick leave. For example, in 2015, President Obama signed an executive order establishing paid sick leave for federal contractors, which ultimately did not cover rail carriers, despite the fact the federal government has hundreds of contracts with freight rail carriers. Okay, I want to talk about this for a second, Ron, because this is true. What he's saying here is true. What he doesn't mention is because there was a lobbying effort to purposely exempt the rail workers from that agreement. Mm-hmm. And Obama agreed to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
so we shouldn't even be at this point if they had not done that.
But yeah, I mean, they lay out all the tools that we have to give them these sick days. It's so like, I mean, yeah, I'm glad this letter was sent, but what I wish even more.
What comes next?
What comes next?
Yeah.
And this is one of those situations where it's like Bernie's got to realize the power that he does have. Bernie has a huge movement behind him. He is still the most popular politician in the country by a lot.
Yeah.
You know, this is the time where he can really use the bully pulpit of public opinion to just scream from the frickin' rafters. And so, and I know when he goes on cable news, they're just like, what are your thoughts on cinema? And they give him some fluff bullshit questions. I know that. And you can see him get less and less patient. And I don't frickin' blame the guy.
I know. He's like, I don't want to talk about cinema. What?
I don't. Yeah, exactly. You can just see it. He's just like, what the? I mean, you can just see it in his face. I mean, hey, look, I have my criticisms of Bernie, but I will give the guy kudos. If I was him at this point, every single interview I did with these cable news clowns, I would just like probably drop the mic and being like, I should have done what my brother did and moved to the frickin' UK and walked out. So I give him credit. He has more patience than I do. But look, funny. I mean, now's the time to really just be like, there are 3 ways. There are 3 ways. 3 ways. So let's at least get this bare minimum done. At the very least. It's still way too little. We still had no business crushing a strike. But let's at least get this bare minimum.
No, he didn't. But I mean, you know, when you read these things and you get pissed, but then you're like, yeah, okay. But if he had actually said all of those things, Biden would not be reading the rest of the letter or even remotely
I'm not telling him to be rude in the letter.
Yeah, no, I know.
I'm telling him, like, use your bully pulpit, you know, outside of that letter.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm glad they sent the letter, you know.
We'll see what happens next.
Exactly.
I mean, what other teeth is behind that? That was just a letter. I don't know what they could force leverage-wise at this point with that particular issue. The leverage has been taken, you know?
I know. Well, so let's move on to the last thing we have on the docket for today, because this is kind of a fun one, I think. And then we have a few more super chats. We'll get to those in a second. Which, by the way, folks, Congress has been dragging their feet on frickin' everything, but I will mention real quick, There's still time to act during this lame duck session. Amazon is laying people off for the holidays because they're freaking criminal. I got a short video about that dropping recently. So it's time for real antitrust legislation, and we can force Congress to act. We got them to drop the JCPA. Let's get a real win and get antitrust legislation. You can go to bidenpromise.us right now, and you can sign for antitrust legislation to be given a vote. Sign the petition, demand to be given a vote. Oh, and another place you can go, Gigi Sohn still has not been appointed to the FCC thanks to a bunch of right-wing smears, a corrupt Senate, and a different president. So go to battleforthenet.com and demand that she be appointed before the year's out.
It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous that they haven't.
It's the fourth quarter, folks. It's the frickin' fourth quarter. We got to throw a Hail Mary, please. Battleforthenet.com. Biden.
I mean, they're obviously trying to run out the clock here for reasons I can't understand. Keeping that position open is just, I mean, this is just a failure of government. It's absurd. It's absurd. I agree.
It's absurd beyond comprehension. So let's go over and smash the like button. Smash it.
So are we going to the poll thing or the blue chips thing?
Smash. We're going to the no more Biden thing. I think that's the poll thing, right?
Okay. Well, we have the blue slips too, but we can save that. Okay, let's do that.
So
we always have more stuff than we have time for.
that's a good problem to have. Actually, you know what? That's a shitty problem to have. I wish we lived where it's just like everything's fine, guys. We're done with the show. That'd be great. I'd love to live in that world where it's just like, we're just, things are like pretty much fine. There's not that much to talk about because things are good. Did you guys catch the season finale of White Lotus? It was incredible. It was absolutely, you're missing
I haven't seen any of that. Yeah,
you should change that.
Okay.
It's
what
very
is that
good.
streaming on?
I recommend both seasons. Start with the first one so you can get a feel. The seasons don't follow each other, but it can get you a feel for the vibe of the show and what to expect.
What platform is this one on?
HBO.
Oh,
HBO
okay.
Max.
I do have HBO Max. I have that. Okay, I can watch it.
All right, and don't go to HBO Min. Go to HBO Max. That's the HBO Min is just it's just a thing I have.
It's disaster.
Yeah, no, it's just a picture that I drew. But HBO Max, that's where you stream the good shows.
Okay.
So Colin, pull that up real quick. About the
in the Hill.
Majority of Democratic voters. This is according to the Hill. Majority of Democratic voters say Biden shouldn't run for re-election. That's a survey that they took. So I guess this is pretty self-explanatory. Like they took a survey. Most people said Biden shouldn't run. I agree. But here's my question. I thought this would be a fun way to end today. Who do we got? Like, who do we got? I mean,
I know, right?
And here's the deal. I don't think Bernie should run a third time. I just don't.
I would vote for him if he did. I'll say that.
I would vote for him.
But he's getting on in years too. There's a very shallow bench of decent presidential potential candidates.
I would say it's a non-existent bench. I mean, really, because it's like, look, and I'm not trying to. I think that if Bernie were to run, we would just see the same thing happen a third time. And I'm not trying to be like disparaging. Bernie was in the right place at the right time, and he showed a bunch of us we're not as alone as we thought we were. That is huge. I will always be grateful for that. Always. But he's shown us, I mean, we need somebody who's going to just go to the mat in a way that he has shown us he's just not willing to go there. He's just not. We need someone who's going to play hard. The same thing happened twice, Tina. I mean, do you need it to happen a third time?
No, but I don't think that those outcomes would be different with another individual. The outcomes that.
But you got to try. I mean, we need someone who is going to go to the mat so hard.
I think he went pretty hard. I've never seen a presidential candidate in the past go as hard as he did, especially in 2016. I don't see that person existing.
I agree. It just wasn't hard enough. I agree no one's gone that hard. But, I mean.
But what is hard enough? I'm saying there is no hard enough. What I'm saying, the things that stop that from happening are these rules that I was talking about earlier, like within the DNC. It's death by a million cuts. I don't know how you get around that stuff. But, I mean, to overcome, there has to be a margin of votes happening that is beyond this, like, what do we want to call it? The margin of DNC fuckery? You
really have to run against your own party, and you really have to mobilize people who weren't going to vote otherwise. Half the country doesn't frickin' vote. You know, I mean, it's like
you're right
that's
on
what he
that.
had to
This
do.
is part of the
And
problem.
Bernie,
But he did bring in voters that traditionally weren't voting, and I think that was part of his success, right?
but
People
then
that
he
are
didn't
completely
mobilize them
tuned out.
quite hard enough. I mean, I'm not trying to say like the like his runs
I
were
don't
for nil. They
I
weren't.
don't
But
see
you
I don't
have
see
to. I
that
mean,
person existing. I just don't. Maybe I'm just
then we have no chance at ever getting the White House. If that's true, then we have no chance ever. Because I'm sorry, we need someone that goes to the mat a little harder. Someone who in 2020 is not going to say, I think Biden could beat Trump too. That's something Bernie did. That was a huge mistake. I was screaming at the television when I heard that. Everyone should have been. And that was wrong. You know, we need someone who's going to go to the mat in a way and say, this is what the population is demanding. We have a government that's been working against the people for too long. This is what society demands. We need it. I mean, FDR, that's what FDR did.
yeah,
So
I
we
think
have
Bernie
seen
and
it
FDR are on
before.
the same playing field. That's all I'm saying. I
Well,
think
except one got in the White House and one didn't.
yeah,
I
but
mean, so it's like,
this was a different time that FDR
I
was
understand
with
that,
different
but
rules.
okay, but I mean, you can only, I mean, well, then we need someone who's going to be able to overcome that. And if no one can, and maybe you're right, no one can. Well, then we might as well just abandon the White House because we have no chance.
No,
Ever.
we have to keep infiltrating and changing party rules. Listen, Joseph was sort of maybe we should get it next time we have him. We should talk about this more in depth. But there have been successes internally there. I mean, it's not as bad as it was in 2016, and I know maybe people don't know that because it just doesn't get discussed. But there have been like changes made internally that are to our benefit as progressives for sure.
Well, they changed the rules around the superdelegates, which that was huge.
No,
So then in
that's not
2020
enough. I'm saying other stuff too, but I'm
it's
saying
not- well, like what other stuff? I mean, they still were able to screw Bernie because they just got a clown car of people to actively work against him. It wasn't a
right.
coincidence that everyone dropped on Super Tuesday. It was
absolutely wasn't.
intentional
Obama entirely orchestrated
sabotage
that.
him.
Yeah, 100%.
Totally.
He got
So
on the horn and said, "You guys need to fall in line," and they did. Klobuchar, fall in line, sure. You know, so it's like all the way down the list. Yes, 100% that happened.
so you need someone who is just going to be so freaking on fire and just have such a movement behind him that the powers that be
It
have to
transcends
realize
that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
that it
You need a
transcends
percentage
that.
above.
And also, let's be honest, no matter who it is, they could always screw them over if they wanted to. So you need someone who's going to be so freaking loud that the powers that be are going to realize we have to let them win this time. We can't take this one. We just
don't.
can't. They're going to be they're too freaking loud.
I adore you, Ron. I just don't see it.
Then you might as well not vote for president. I mean, we have no chance ever then. If you think that person doesn't exist, and maybe you're right, they don't, then we'll never have a transformational presidency in either of our lifetimes then. If that person doesn't
not
exist.
by somebody running alone and by that alone. There needs to be other outside things that happen, I think.
Like what?
We'll table that for Thursday maybe, because this is a much longer conversation. I don't, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I just don't see it.
I hope you're wrong. I mean, I really hope you're wrong. I mean, I don't think we're going to have another chance like Bernie Sanders for a while, but I hope it happens sooner than later, for the sake of this country. But yeah, I mean, you just need someone who's just going to go a little harder into that finish line. And I do think it's possible. I mean, there are times where it's like you're so loud that they just can't freaking deny you. We just need someone.
I think it's not about being all right, let me just say this. I don't think it's about them being loud that they can't hear you. I think that just doesn't happen. I think these guys are wealthy enough. They're like, yeah, scream a little more. I'm just going to shut the door. I think they need to be afraid in some capacity.
They were afraid. They were afraid. You're making it out like Bernie. I mean, Bernie pretty much got the ball to the 3 frickin' yard line and then threw a pick.
Yeah, but
I mean, that happened 2 times.
But yeah,
so,
and they were able to use their power to thwart that. And
so
being
you just
loud,
need someone who's going to run
being
the ball
louder isn't okay. But being louder isn't going to be enough to change to stop that. It's not enough.
Yes, it would be, because you would have had swarms of people. How many people just didn't show up? I mean, part of it was the pandemic. That was a big part of it. But a lot of people just thought the writing was on the wall. Bernie had pretty much just said, "Oh, I think Biden."
You're talking about 2020 during the.
I'm talking about 2020. Yeah. I mean, if Bernie really would have just, kept on, I mean, I think we might have seen a different outcome. I honestly do believe too, had the pandemic not happened,
I think that was
I do think there's a chance, and obviously you can't put that on Bernie or any one person. That's absurd. But I do think had that not been a factor, I really think Bernie might have had enough.
I think there's truth to that.
Get us there.
I'll agree with you on that. Yeah.
I just don't think he would have enough in 2024. That's not me trying to scapegoat Bernie. I'm just being honest here. But the other sad thing is well, who on the bench do we have? We don't have anyone. We have
That's what I'm saying. I would vote for Bernie. So.
No, I would vote for him. I'm not saying I wouldn't vote for him. I'm just saying I don't think he would win. But who else would even remotely have a chance?
We have some recommendations. Chris Smalls should run. I'm reading them. Chris Smalls, Katie Porter. I have to say, Katie Porter is growing on me. I wasn't initially excited about her, but I think she's proving to be a much stronger progressive than I thought, and more committed to making some decent changes. Do you have thoughts on her?
I think she'd be a better president than Biden, but I can't. I mean, we also have to be realistic. Who would run?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's a low bar.
Yeah, I mean, but who would run? I mean, it's all those names. I mean, Chris Smalls would be a huge outsider candidate.
Yeah.
And that would be
maybe two outside. I don't know. These are potential future candidates, I think, that aren't ready for 2024 per se, but sometime in the future, sure.
I don't know if Chris Smalls would run in 2024, but and I know Katie Porter certainly wouldn't unless Biden's not. I mean, if Biden's not, then it's just a free for all. But I mean, I think a lot of people would just want to give it to Kamala. So it's I think you'd have a lot of people who wouldn't even try to run because of that. But you would have some people who tried to run. But honestly, I mean, I think it would probably just be a clown car of centrists. So it's I don't want to.
I agree with you there.
It's who are we?
I mean, it'd be Pete. It'd be, I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty freaking rough. I mean, I don't. So yeah, it's a tough. That's kind of why I wanted to close on this, because it's just it's a tough paradox. I don't want to see Biden run, but who else do we freaking got? And it's
no one. And it doesn't go on to say in the poll, does it? It says so. 57% of Democrats do not want Biden to run for re-election. That sentiment was shared among 70% of all Americans surveyed, with 66% of independents and 86% of Republicans saying the same. So this is a plurality.
Yeah.
The poll also found that voters overwhelmingly do not want former President Trump, who declared his candidacy for 2024 last month, to seek another term as president. Pollsters found 61% of respondents, including 37% of Republicans, 61% of independents, and 88% of Democrats don't want Trump to run for a second term. Yeah. I mean, they're both very unpopular.
Well, it's always an unpopularity contest. Literally.
It is literally, yes.
Because usually the person with less votes wins.
How sad is that?
The person with less votes sometimes wins because of that beautiful thing called the Electoral College. That's just so great.
It's sad that this is but you're right. It's an unpopularity contest. I mean, we always end up with two crappy candidates, it seems. I mean, at least in my lifetime.
I mean, I don't know how you think it would be different in mine. I would be like, no,
you're younger than me, so entirely in yours.
You must have missed the presidential election of 20 never that happened, where we had all these great candidates.
No, yeah, that didn't happen.
Well, so folks, let us know. Hit us up with a last minute super chat here. Who do you think? Who could it be? If it's not, I mean, I would love to not see Biden run, but who do you think? And you can be idealistic and also realistic. Like there's a lot of people. If I could pick anyone for the presidency, I would actually be on the same page as Zach Curtis here. Shama Zawant would be. If I could just pick the president, that's who I'd pick. I'd pick Shama Zawant to be president. Zach Curtis is also giving a shout out to Shama. That'd be my vote. But I don't think she's.
We got a few Katies though. So Katie is what about Stephanie Kelton? That's not a bad suggestion.
That'd be awesome. But I feel like she's so much better not in electoral politics. And that's a compliment.
Taylor Swift.
I mean, you know what?
All right, wait. What about Liz? Hang on.
Mobilized.
Can Liz Warren come back from doing what she did during the 2020 primary?
No, she cannot.
Because I think some people have forgiven her for that. No,
I have not. I haven't. I can only speak for me. I haven't. And I mean, I think that Liz Warren, she was the most willing participant to make sure that Bernie got screwed over with the whole
which was really strange. Story. It just seemed very I mean, I see that, but it was very counterintuitive for me to see that happen.
how easy can you? Okay, she was a Republican until she was 47 years old. So how easily can you trust this person? I'm sorry. I mean, it'd be one thing if she was just like, oh yeah, I was conservative in my early 20s. Then I got a freaking library card and I learned more shit, and now I'm not anymore. She was 47 years old. When you're 47, most of your principles are pretty freaking embedded. So for you to have some complete ideological change of heart, to go from the party of freaking Reagan. And I know people like to entertain this fantasy that it's not the Republican Party that it used to be. No, it's been the same Republican Party for 40 freaking years. It's just gotten a little more mean on the surface because of assholes like Trump. But it's been the same freaking Republican Party.
I don't disagree with that.
Change. So, this idea. I mean, I'm the last person who's going to say don't let people change. We need to let people change, and that can certainly happen at every age. I do believe that. But there's a difference between someone having an honest change of heart and somebody who is just looking to occupy a lane, so she's just kind of shopping around. He or she is just kind of shopping around. And I promise you, Liz Warren is in that latter category. She puts on a good show when the cameras are on sometimes. She, like waffles around different policy positions, where she stands. At one point she defends Bernie, then she doesn't. In 2016, they wanted her to be the person. She didn't want to do it, though. She wasn't going to cross Queen Hillary. You think someone's going to not?
Right. I've forgotten about that. That did happen.
Now, she wasn't willing to cross Hillary, the most corrupt part of the Democratic Party. You think she'll stand up to the Democratic Party in any capacity? That's nice political fan fiction.
No, probably not. Probably not. Dave is bringing up a good point. The first part of Thomas Frank's Kansas book is How Republicans See Themselves. It's an interesting read. What's the Matter with Kansas? It's a great book. If people have not read that, I highly recommend it.
See, I love his book.
Listen, Liberal.
Know. Well, that one too.
Okay. They're
Kansas,
all good.
I think Kansas is the only one of his I have. Well, no, he has a lot of books, doesn't he?
He has a lot of books.
His main one.
I think
out of
Kansas
his main ones, yeah, Kansas is the one I haven't read. Out of his main.
Okay,
ones.
I recommend it because if you want to try and understand how the right wing, how the Republican Party was so able to thoroughly take over Midwestern America, it's a really good read in understanding how we got there.
Yeah, well, the People Know is just such. I mean, all like, if you read the People Know, you will be so angry. If you weren't already, you will just be so angry when you see populism being completely bastardized in our society, as far as like what it means, and the whole right-wing populism, which I'm doing air quotes here, folks, because that's not a real thing. That's an oxymoron. It doesn't exist. But
it does exist because people exist and they name it that.
People made it
but
up.
I do understand your point.
It's bullshit though. And he breaks all that down and breaks down the real history of what populism actually is. And it's
Thomas Frank's great. We should get him. Yeah. We should get him on.
He's a fun dude, man. He's a big music guy too. Thomas Frank is. He likes.
All right, we got some more love for Katie here. I'm telling you, maybe Katie's the girl. Fly Chopper Fly. That's a great handle. You're right. DeSantis is an exciting candidate. We need an exciting candidate, which is why Katie. Plus, Katie has direct tie to Warren for people who do like her. All right, so I see what you're saying there. Katie is very lively. Like, I've been watching some of her speeches that she's giving on the floor, and she's very lively and direct and has really intelligent points. So I think there might be some merit to that. I'm gonna have to mull that around a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you just need someone who can take Bernie's torch and really run with it. And again, it's going to take it from the 3-yard line into the end zone. Is Katie Porter that person? I mean, that doesn't really strike me. I could be wrong, but I don't know who that person is, especially if we're just talking 2024. I mean, again, I have my wish list. We all have our wish list.
Right.
But, there's a difference between wish list and reality. And, I don't know who it would be. Presence says, ranked choice voting in Washington State. Search Fair Vote Washington. Thank you very much for the Super Chat contribution, Presence. And right on, Fair Vote Washington. Absolutely. Cup of Joy, thank you very much for the Super Chat contribution. Hope things are going awesome for you. Just heard Ralph Nader on Bad Faith. Get him on, please. Oh, yeah. Ralph Nader is always.
Oh, yeah.
He has
I'm a fan,
steps at the local level to get Congress people to show up for a town hall. He is amazing. I like Ralph Nader. That's freaking awesome.
Wait, but isn't it absolutely absurd that you have to have like steps to get the person you elect to show? I mean, that they should just be doing that. That's part of their jobs, for Pete's sake.
Yeah, it's remarkable. John to Emily Transition Vlog says, "Go Tina and Ron." Thank you for that, John to Emily Transition Vlog, and hope you are doing awesome. Fly Chomper Fly. They want Mayor Pete. We should do Katie Porter. Sadly, I don't think Marianne Williamson or Nina Turner would win without better organization. It'd be hard for any outsider.
It's hard, yeah. I mean, I don't mean to be nihilistic, but I feel like it's just an impossible feat at this point.
And then Zach Curtis gives Zach Curtis with the Shama shout out. If I could just pick the president, that'd be my pick. I'd pick.
Yeah. I agree. Presence, actually, we have a super chat from Presence. Do you have that on your? Yeah. My answer to that is yes. I would absolutely love to hear people's thoughts on this. If you want to set that up, go ahead and add me to that room. I definitely want to hear it.
I'll put in a shrug emoji. No, I'll think of something more. I'll think of something more coherent.
No, I mean, it's important to hear what people's thoughts are on this, because I think the bench is pretty shallow right now and the country is in need of a leader, you know?
Yeah. Travers says Warren has no character. Her own state won't even vote for her. Yeah, she's not.
Yeah, she did lose. I don't know, but some people still see her as a progressive.
I mean, that's... Yeah, I don't agree. I mean, are there worse people out there than Liz Warren? Sure, but no, she's not. She's no progressive. I mean, she's part of that. I mean, Michael Moore did a whole. But she's just looking for a lane. Did you hear that podcast Michael Moore did about her?
No, I did not. I have not.
Yeah, I mean, he just lays out the whole thing on how he's like, yeah, I don't know if I can, and he was friends with her.
All right, Ed Markey. Hang on, Ed Markey is a good one. I like Ed Markey. Does he have? Okay, interesting. Tom Steyer. Somebody's saying Tom Steyer. I interviewed Tom Steyer on the campaign trail last go around, and I actually really like Tom Steyer. I was surprised to like him. I didn't want to like him. He's a billionaire, but he has some very straightforward talk about all of those things. I should play that interview during our show one day. People might find it interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure he might be a nice guy. I mean,
no, I'm not saying he's a nice guy at all. I'm saying
he came off as nice to you.
No, I'm not. I'm not talking about. Yeah, not because he's nice, but because he shares similar viewpoints of billionaires in politics that you do.
Then why is he a billionaire? My viewpoint. I mean, maybe you overspoke to me. My viewpoint is billionaires should not exist.
I agree.
So, okay, then he is a billionaire. So how does he share my viewpoint?
Because he agrees.
Then why does he still have that amount of
play? All right, I will play. What? That's just not a fair question. What do you?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Has the government taxed him?
Is someone shackling him from making donations? There are billionaire.
I'm sure he does. I'm sure he does.
There are billionaire.
Okay, but you're assuming that he's not doing that. I don't know how much money he has. Whoa, slow down, Bo. Slow down. I don't know if he's still a billionaire. I know that he did make a lot of money, close to $1 billion, if not more, when he was working in West Virginia in fossil fuel companies before he left and started NextGen whatnot. He's kind of an interesting guy. I'm just bringing him up because somebody suggested he might make a good candidate.
Okay, well, he does not
I think you would
be on billionaires because I believe billionaires shouldn't exist, and he is a billionaire. So unless he was lying about his net worth or people were lying on the campaign trail,
I think you're missing.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I mean, you know, I'm sure he might have some okay ideas, whether they're sincere or not. I have my doubts. But here in Hollywood, there are people who, you know, like are successful writers and stuff like that. They literally sign pledges that they will never become a billionaire because if they ever get close to that much in assets, they will give all of it away. So, no, like becoming a billionaire.
That seems very performative to me, but okay.
Why? I mean, but it's like, but I know people who have gotten close to that amount of wealth and they never got to.
And they gave all their wealth away? Yeah.
No, they don't give all of it away. They don't become a billionaire. Do you know how much $1 billion is? A lot. Okay. Like what's the thing? $1 million is like 11 days. $1 billion is 31 years, right? Isn't that the thing or something close to it? So that's an awful lot. So if you accumulate that much, it wasn't an accident. You didn't just wake up one day and like, oh shit, look at my bank account. I'm a billionaire. It's not how it works. So, I'm sorry. Like I'm not gonna I'm not gonna be pushing for Tom Steyer to lead the choir anytime soon.
That's fine. I'm trying to find what he's got. I don't know. It's not coming up in a search right away. Regardless, so somebody brought him up. I'm just bringing him up because it's in the chat, and I do think he has more decent opinions than what I expected. That's all I was saying. All right. Al Franken? I don't think.
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
No. I mean, Al Franken lost me when he blatantly went against his own state and gave, the delegates to Hillary. He went against the will of his state. They were a Bernie state. He went for Hillary anyway. He didn't come out for Medicare for all. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's like all these people are just kind of, I don't know.
Cornel West?
I'd vote for Cornel West.
I would too. That's an interesting idea. I just don't see him wanting to run for any political office, though. He doesn't seem.
He's too smart.
He's. All right, wait, hang on. Here's another interesting one. Marianne Williamson.
I think.
Somebody's saying she's a good new age guru, but not a politician. But I mean, she had a decent run the last time. I found myself liking her more than I thought I would, and having her grow on me. I
think she might be one of the only outsiders to make a go of it should Biden run again.
Okay.
And obviously I'd vote for Marianne Williamson over Joe Biden, sure.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know if she could. Yeah, I just don't know. She win. Like I don't know. I mean, that'd be tough for her to win.
There seems to be a lack of true leadership right now as far as people getting excited or behind somebody entirely. But things could change, But maybe the idea that having somebody that's an outsider to politics run for office is not a bad idea. Like Cornel West is, not inherently a politician.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a great idea. It just, sometimes it really... you look at someone like Eugene Debs.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't even remember that he spent 2 years in office because he's known for everything else. He's known for labor organizing and pushing socialism and all the other amazing things he did because at the end of the day, he's an outsider. That's how he was effective. That was the lane he was meant to occupy. And it's I am a firm believer that it takes both revolutionaries and reformers.
Yeah.
And a politician is by definition a reformer. So it's a great reformer can't be a revolutionary and vice versa. A great revolutionary is going to be a shitty reformer because that's just not the lane they're meant to occupy. They're not good at that. I think it needs both. I mean, we always have these reformer versus revolutionary. Well, it's no, you need both.
You need both.
You really do need both.
I think FDR was both in many ways.
That's an interesting point. I would say he was a reformer though, because
so?
FDR, I think so, because I think FDR had the foresight to know what a society needed. I don't think that necessarily makes one a revolutionary. I think it was the revolutionaries that kind of that FDR noticed and had to listen to. I think
that's fair.
It was the labor movements going on. It was the labor movements, the socialists, the anarchists. It was everyone outside that was kind of pushing FDR, the reformer, to do what he did. So, I guess if you want to look for someone who was both, an example I would give was someone like Nelson Mandela.
Okay. Yeah.
That's an example of someone who was both. I don't know
agree.
if I
True leadership.
I'm not saying
we need
FDR
a Nelson Mandela. Yeah.
I think it'd be pretty freaking cool. I don't know how that. Yeah, we're so far from it. But.
Anyway, those are just some of the recommendations people are throwing out there. I wanted to look at some of them. But yeah, if you want to start a Twitter room for that, I would completely be interested in hearing other ideas. All right, what else we got? Is that all the super chats?
I think we got them all. Do we have any more? Yeah, I think we covered them all. I think we nailed it.
All right.
Yeah, I think
What do you
that.
now tomorrow? Do you have a guest tomorrow?
Hold on, I'm making sure. Yeah, I think we got him. As of right now, no guests tomorrow, but
okay.
we'll see if that changes. And of course, I'll mention real quick, folks, that you can find me on the road in 2023, which is like next week. Actually, it's this year went so freaking fast. My San Diego date got switched, folks. January 7th, I will be in San Diego. The good news is that show is free. So if you're thinking, man, I'm broke from New Year's Eve, come on out and check me out on a Saturday night. January 7th, San Diego, California. January 28th, Tucson, Arizona. Use the promo code Lucy at checkout, and you get a discount on tickets. And that's a stand-up show and the premiere of my short film, Loner. So I'm excited about that. Grab them now. It's a holiday discount. And then February 10th, April 14th, and May 12th, I'm doing a string of shows in Los Angeles, California at the Glendale Room. Tickets information at romplacone.com.
Oh, no, I don't do Facebook. Hang on. Presence was going to do the room on Facebook, I guess. Can you do Twitter? Oh, actually, Twitter's dying. I don't know what's going to happen next.
Do it on Twitter for the life support.
For the life.
Why do you do like a Twitter? It's not a room. It's like the room is like the space, right? You do the Twitter space.
No. You can set up in your DMs. You can set up rooms. People set up rooms that they've added to you.
Oh, yeah.
You've never done any of those? Yeah.
No, I'm in a couple of those that I was just kind of put in, and I kind of. I mean, I'm sure you get that all the time. Like you're just kind of. That's why like Twitter messages. Like, there's a lot of times people be like, "Hey, you never got back to me," and I'm like, "Did you send a Twitter message?" Or
so
like,
what is the next? All right, let's have this question. Presence is not on Twitter. Darn it. What is the next? What's going to be the next social media thing? Because
oh, jeez,
is it going to be Blue Sky? I know Jack is doing Blue Sky. There's Post. I just I joined Post 2 weeks ago, but there's not. There's not
I'm
a
trying
lot of
to
people
figure out
there.
Mastodon, and I'm not good at it.
Mastodon's more complicated. It's more complicated.
It's hard. Mastodon is super complicated, and it is fun, but it's like I'm still trying to figure it out. I have no clue what's going to be. I mean, I feel like I kind of thought Twitter was sort of leveling off and kind of becoming like okay, but now it's like. We talked about this, and now we're seeing it come into action. Like the value of Twitter was it was like just a valuable tool to just find information and find out like what's going on and what's trending and stuff like that. Now, I mean, something had to have changed in the algorithm.
Yeah, they changed the algorithm. It's terrible.
My time, like all of the trending topics for me, it's all like right-wing. Yeah. Just what? So like, there's no way this kind of reflects like everything that's going on in the world. This is super insulary. Right wing.
I have if I log into my home thing, I get tweets from like people I don't follow at all, and I'm like, why are you? This is supposed to be my TL of accounts I follow, and then there's like who's the guy that murdered 2 people? I can't think of his name.
Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yes.
I see every Kyle Rittenhouse tweet. I do not follow. I don't follow the guy.
I don't want to see that crap. And Kevin Sorbo, his stuff keeps showing up. I finally muted Kevin Sorbo because, like, I don't follow you. I don't want to see your crap. I'm just going to mute that. Like, but what's happening here? Like,
I don't know. I don't know.
It would just be accounts that I followed, and I like it that way. I mean, this is like,
Other people have been complaining about that. I mean, I see people who are like, I'm not seeing the tweets from people I follow, but I see every tweet from, like, it usually it's like a right-wing. But well, Elon was
it's something super crazy, like not even like a right where you can look at and go like, okay, yeah, I see your point. No, like crazy people.
Elon was
like ultra MAGA babe 69 with my fake blue check. Like it'll be her, and it'll be Kyle Rittenhouse, and it'll be Andrew England. Like what?
You have MAGA babe 69 showing up because of all your Hitler porn research. That's a you thing. Did that piece drop, by the way?
No, I'm still writing it. No.
For anyone who doesn't remember, you got to go back to an episode 2 Thursdays ago. If that just kind of came out of left field for you, there's a story.
Yeah.
All right, so it still hasn't come out yet.
No.
Why?
No, but you're never gonna live that one down.
Okay, you're gonna get great numbers on this piece. Everyone's gonna be so freaking curious.
I know.
They're gonna be like, why?
Yeah, it's not gonna be funny though. It's just sad. It's not a funny thing.
Well, maybe you should change the title to "How I Stumbled Across Hitler Porn," and then just have the art. I mean, that'll at least the title will get. I mean, people will chuckle. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just it's a bummer because
man.
like that's the value Twitter used to have for me, and now it just doesn't
and it's
really
gone.
have that as much.
It's
So I'm
just
just like, how do I
frustrating.
even know?
I don't know.
Like it's good to know what's trending, and I'm not saying like it needs.
But I
to
don't
be
think they're genuine trending anymore. Like it's
Right.
It's like bizarre stuff where you're just like, why? What?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm with you. I mean, so I don't know. And I guess Elon was like banishing a bunch of accounts that shared the clip
The
of him
booing.
He
I
got
mean, here's
booed.
here's the funniest thing about that, Ron. So he's upset and he's saying like the woke mind virus is killing whatever he said, and I'm like, okay, Elon, Dave Chappelle's audience is definitely not the woke type. Like, where are you getting this from? I mean, the
Yeah,
fact
he
that
was at a
the
Dave
fact that
Chappelle
Dave
show.
Chappelle's audience is booing you should tell you something.
And they
Just
booed him
saying.
for like a while.
Yeah,
like
this
like
video.
they booed him and then
I'm
they didn't
assuming
laugh
people saw
again.
this. No, it was really
Dude, it was
funny.
everywhere.
And then
They didn't laugh again
Elon
until
says,
Dave
"Wait, my
saw it.
favorite was that he goes, it was 90% cheering and 10% booing." And I'm like, no, I saw the video. No.
Well, did you see everyone sharing the there was that Simpsons meme where they were booing Mr. Burns and he was like, "Are they booing?" And Smithers goes, "No, it's Boo Earns."
Boo.
And people were sharing that meme because it's like because afterwards he probably asked one of
It's Boo
his
Earns.
lacking
Yeah.
like, "Were they booing me?" Like, "Oh, only about 10%, Elon. It's okay. Only about 10%."
No,
Everyone else was
no. I mean, he must live in a really insular world that he didn't see that coming. That's just bizarre.
I mean, the whole thing's been bizarre.
I agree. Yeah.
I mean, do you think less people are going to be buying Teslas? Is that happening yet?
Yeah,
Will
I
it
think
happen?
less. I think few. Plus, there's so many other options for electric vehicles at this point that I don't think they own the market at this point. Yeah, I do.
No,
I think
they
it is going to
totally
affect.
don't.
I do. I think it's going to affect his brand. I mean, I see it in a bad light now, where I probably didn't care before, because each new thing he does, you're just like, are you kidding me? Like what?
I mean, well, it's like he used to. I think Max Collins of Eve 6 tweeted this, where it's like the Tesla used to be the symbol of like kind of like the contemporary liberal. And now like Elon Musk is this, huge right winger dude. So like, are they going to be like, I'm not going to use this car anymore and get something else. So it's
And
like
it's not just that he's solely a right winger dude now, right? I mean, I could see him as being the wealthy business guy, billionaire guy, being just like more of a traditional Republican, and it'd be like, yeah, that checks, right? It's the fact that he's so red pilled and he's placating elements of the alt right that are just bizarre to me.
Well, did you see his pronouns tweet?
Yeah.
Like recycling that quote unquote joke for the billionth time.
Yeah.
But like, what was it like? He was like, my pronouns
Prosecute
are like,
Fauci.
jeez. I mean,
And he has a trans kid, doesn't he? On top of it, it's just like, how
that's
could
my
you?
understanding.
He's
I mean,
just,
that's
I don't know.
That's just kind of evil.
Yeah.
Like it's just like, I mean,
It's messed
it,
up.
finally we're seeing like a backlash about it where people are just like, dude, it's not authoritarian to just treat people with respect.
Right.
Like frickin' pronouns are just a matter of respect. How is that inconveniencing your life in any way whatsoever to like
Yeah,
give people
didn't he say it was something about being like violent or aggressive or something? He had some response to somebody where I was like, dude, are you serious? Putting pronouns in your bio that they're in my bio and it's aggressive towards you and causing you violence in what way? That's ridiculous.
Well, again,
honestly, it's these guys that need the safe space. They always say like we're the folks that need the safe space, and it's like, nah, it's you guys. You guys are always the one crying about this, that, or the other.
And it's about stuff that like really doesn't have any bearing. I mean, I guess if you're a billionaire and you don't have a real problem, that's what you have to just pontificate about and just boil about. Oh my God, you have pronouns? Like really? That's the hill, huh? So
that's the hill. That's the hill.
I mean, I'll give you this much. Tom Steyer is no Elon Musk. I'll give you that. He's no Elon Musk. I will.
No, he's
concede.
not. I'm just telling you, like, I wanted to really
concede that.
dislike this guy, and I was shocked. I was like, wow, okay.
No, he's likable. I'm not. I mean, dude, his whole thing was he had like some bromance with Bernie.
Well, I
So-
actually did ask him that, by the way. That was my last question.
What did he say?
He laughed.
All right. I mean, hey, I'm sure the guy's very likable. I just, it's
No,
like,
he was just being. I'll have to play it for you. He was being very direct. It's not publicly available anywhere, so.
why? What'd you do with it? Was this?
It was behind the paywall at Rockfin previously, I think.
Okay. All
and
right.
I think I licensed it to some people that are no longer using it. But I mean, I was surprised. He was very frank about how billionaires are policy failures, and yeah, they shouldn't exist. And what why is the government not taxing more? He said Costa-Hawkins was a terrible bill that should have never been put in force. We should overturn it. You name it. Like everything I asked him, I was like, wow, really? I did not expect that answer.
So I would have to ask him in that case, well, then how about you not be a billionaire anymore? It's like nothing's stopping. I mean, dude, you could still be very, very rich, but you could
I don't know how much money exactly he has at this point. I do know he has given a lot. Next Gen, which is the climate change nonprofit, was entirely funded by his money. So I don't.
And I appreciate that. I'm with
I don't
you.
know I'm not defending him being a billionaire. I'm just saying that his answers were like surprising and also good. And I think whoever this person was that recommended it have probably heard him speak on these things as well.
If you would have gotten a clip, and maybe he's not. If you would have gotten that clip where he's just like, actually, I'm not a billionaire, that would have went viral as hell. Be like,
I
hey,
didn't
man,
ask him if he was a billionaire. I asked him his positions on policy.
No, I understand that, but I mean, that would have been because according to everything that's out there, dude's a billionaire. So, I mean,
he definitely, if he isn't anymore, he gave his money away. That might be the case. I don't know. But yes, he definitely made billions of dollars doing a hedge fund with oil money when he was, that's fossil fuel compensation, not oil.
I mean, that could have been an amazing moment in the primaries if he wasn't, because they did that gotcha moment for Bernie where they're just like, do you think Tom Steyer shouldn't exist? Which is like, yeah, no, Bernie meant.
I don't remember seeing that. Did that happen?
Oh yeah, no, totally good. Where they were just like, do you think that Tom Steyer shouldn't exist? That would have been a great moment.
No, Tom Steyer.
Actually, I'm not a billionaire. Then they high five together.
I mean, really, the response to me would be like, no, I'm saying billionaires shouldn't exist, not Tom Steyer. Tom Steyer can exist as a person. That's not the point.
It was a bullshit question. And that is basically what Bernie said. But, that entire campaign trail was just like.
It was a hot mess.
Oh, my God. I feel like, all right.
But it was a lot of fun. We've been going on a long time. We went way long. Oh my God, people are still listening to us.
This is a long show. Guys, thank you for tuning in.
Yes,
thank you for sticking with us. We had a longer show than usual today because we had a lot to cover. We didn't even get to all of it, but we got to a lot of it. And thank you for your thoughts and inputs. And let me see if I can get the list.
Maybe what we should do is a members only call about potential presidential candidates, because we have to schedule a members only call for next week.
Aren't we doing it this Thursday?
Or is it this week? Is it this Thursday? Colin.
Where is Colin? Colin might have quit.
Did Colin
Is Colin still with the show? Colin's here.
Colin, here we are. Colin's like, God, you guys are going long.
Colin in those cat ears.
This Thursday.
There we go.
I'll make an old graphic later.
Okay, this Thursday. Oh, by the way, Peace Robert Walker found his net worth. It's $1.5 billion. Okay.
All right, so he's almost. He's not that far. I mean, it wouldn't take that much for him to just be under that threshold.
No, and I'm sure if he'd be like, yeah, here's 5. I don't know. I wouldn't surprise me if he did that. That's all I'm saying.
Tom Steyer, if you are watching this show, I think you should
you should give Status Coup $5 billion to go national.
You're much more selfless than I. I said just me, but yeah, Status Coup. Give it to Status Coup. Give me enough to just make a couple movies. We'll call it a day, and then you won't be a billionaire anymore. And I will support your run for president, Tom Steyer, if you give me money. And then you're not. That'd be amazing if he was just like, I'm just donating the extent of my wealth to independent media and Ron Placone.
That'd be awesome.
Dramatic goals. and then I'm going to run for president.
All right, Fly Chomper Fly is making a good point. I initially liked Steyer, but he didn't endorse Bernie. He didn't. That's why. I wonder why. Like that would have been a thing for him to do, but he didn't do it. Did he endorse anybody at all? I don't think he.
When did he endorse? Because I think eventually some people they didn't want to be, they basically didn't want to rock the boat at all, so they waited to endorse until it was very clear that it was
too late. Yeah.
I mean, that's what
he endorsed Biden.
He did. Boo. Okay.
That's what Warren did. She never endorsed until it was like, because she didn't want to root for like faux progressive bona fides, but she also wasn't gonna not support Biden. So she waited.
I like it when Colin flies in here with a one line and then he.
I know, especially since he has those cat ears. It's like he's like a cat. Like he jumps on the ledge and he's like, "Wah!" And then he bounces quick as he got here. Much like a cat, you're pining for their attention, and then they're like, "Nope, I'm out. I said my piece." Colin, can we get the? I missed. Is there a way we can have the list of everyone who super chatted so I can do a thank you run through? I'm like not fine.
No, we don't have it on our comment thing today.
I lost the star thing because I.
And so wait, what time is while you're doing that? The member call is Thursday at what time? We just want to make sure everybody knows. So if you're a member, if you're not a member, you can join and then be part of it. But we do member calls that are just for members.
Did you? I feel like there was a time you guys said, or was it just the normal time?
I don't know, man. I got so much.
We'll double check. Get back to you guys tomorrow on what time for sure.
All right.
Ron, I just pasted in the chat, but it's
okay. All right.
It's all clumped together, so.
No, that's okay. I can do this. Thank you, Neo's Algorithm. Thank you, Fly Chomper Fly. Thank you, Dave L. Thank you, Neo Algorithm again. There was more though, huh? We got
presents. There was definitely
presents.
Presents.
Actually, I see them all, so I'll just read them. I think the copy paste isn't working.
All right, go for
it. It is Neo's Algorithm, Fly Chomper Fly, Dave L, Cup of Joy, Presents, and then some repeats from Fly Chomper Fly and Presents as well.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. You help keep this show on the air. Go to statuscoup.com/join if you are able. You know that when you join Status Coup, you're funding independent journalism. You're funding sending Status Lou on the beat. You're funding sending Tina on the beat. You're funding sending Jordan on the beat when he's not writing a book or making a person. That's what you're funding. So Status Coup/join. And by the way, you'll be able to participate on our members call on Thursday, where we're going to talk.
Where Ron and I get even rowdier.
We get really rowdy on these member calls that actually Thursday will be our first one. But it'll be rowdy. We frickin' promise you. And it'll be my first one. You might have participated in them.
I have, yeah.
Okay, so it'll be my first. It'll be my first one, folks. But we'll be talking, among other things, we'll be talking about potential 24 contenders. I mean, I might run. I haven't decided yet. I might go for it.
No.
We'll talk about that. That'd be the worst. That'd be the freaking worst.
I might vote for you. I might be convinced.
I wouldn't even vote for me. I mean, I don't even mean that. I just mean it would just be like a terrible. I don't know. People who I know who have run for office, most of them say it was the worst experience of my life. That's why. I mean, I give mad kudos to anyone who does it because it's just crushing. I mean, it's rough. It's rough. But yeah.
Alrighty then.
All right. Folks, I will be back tomorrow, and I'll have a fun show for you. And Tina and I will be back together on Thursday.
And then also this week for Right Wing Insanity Report, I have Zach Roberts coming on as guest. You've seen Zach Roberts' photos before. He's a photojournalist, but he's been at like all kinds of crazy things from Charlottesville to crazy Trump rallies, January 6th. So going to have him on. He was also working with Greg Palast on Vigilante, the documentary that he just shot down in Georgia for the voter suppression.
Brilliant. Is that your gardener? I hear that.
No, not mine, but there's one somewhere. A very loud blow thing.
I don't know what they. I mean, didn't it rain today? Did it rain out near you?
Yeah, it's still kind of. It's,
It was
it's
crappy
about,
all day.
there's a reason I have my out now. It's like 42 degrees in here. It's freezing.
Yeah, no, it's really. We should definitely.
Everybody
complain
on the
about
East Coast
cold.
is like
Yeah, I know,
laughing at us. They're
Everyone's,
like
cursing
42
at
is
us.
nothing.
They're not laughing. They're yelling at us.
Yeah.
They're just
All right,
like
fair.
they're like, oh, you're complaining about the cold in Southern California now? Okay, guys. All right.
All right, y'all.
Thank you all.